Angela Merkel boarded the historical Rheingold Express to campaign across Germany earlier this month. The train was once used by German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer in his election campaign 60 years ago. It was Adenauer who presided over West Germany's economic miracle in the post-war years. Now, in 2009, Merkel is keen to draw on his legacy.
At that time, Konrad Adenauer entered a coalition with the FDP with a majority of just one vote. We take that as a good omen for our campaign, because we are, of course, also aiming to form a new government.
Angela Merkel has served as German Chancellor for 4 years. Her inauguration was a historic moment for Germany.
So wahr mir Gott helfe.
She was the first woman to become Chancellor and the first Chancellor to have grown up in former communist East Germany. But 4 years on, Angela Merkel is still something of an enigma. She rarely nails her colours to the mast, always preferring to keep her options open. That was evident even when the CDU and SPD drew up their coalition agreement after the last election.
This treaty will allow us to answer the question as to whether people will be doing better in 2009 with a joint yes.
Merkel led a coalition of Germany's two main parties, known here as a Grand Coalition. It means the government has a significant majority in Parliament. But it also means constant tactical manoeuvring and compromise. Long night sessions were a regular occurrence under her leadership. The two parties would agree a watered-down compromise, which then had to be sold to the public as a success. But in the international arena, Merkel's negotiation skills allowed her to shine. Her ability to achieve breakthroughs on difficult issues won her recognition, whether in talks with her European Union neighbours or at the G8 summit in Heiligendamm. Merkel could then say she'd achieved her goals, as she did over climate change.
I think we've done a very good job in focusing on what matters to the world. My colleagues also found the atmosphere here very pleasant.
In the Rheingold Express, Merkel retraced Konrad Adenauer's footsteps from his 1949 campaign through the Rhine Valley. Against this historical backdrop, she repeatedly spoke of him as her role model. As someone who comes from the East, it's noticeable how often she takes elements from West German history and transports them into the here and now, perhaps in an effort to lend tradition and thereby legitimacy to her brand of politics.
Obviously, every political generation faces its own challenges. Today is not only the 60th anniversary of the election of Konrad Adenauer, it's also the first anniversary of the collapse of Lehman Brothers. This day had a real impact on the global economy and led to an international financial and economic crisis, which we now have to deal with, to ensure that Germany emerges from this crisis stronger. That's the task I and my political generation face.
The financial crisis rocked governments around the world. Within weeks, the markets had plummeted to record lows, and major financial institutions were on the verge of bankruptcy. Merkel was forced to act quickly, something she'd hitherto generally avoided. But now there was no time to wait things out.
We, as the German government, will not allow one institution's precarious situation to drag the entire system into a precarious situation. And to those who have savings, we say their savings are secure. The German government guarantees it.
Merkel's guarantee and her reaction to the plight of the stricken automaker Opel marked a sea change in her policies. The formerly market-oriented Chancellor backed an extensive programme of state intervention, although she still maintains that it doesn't chime with her own political beliefs.
With all due respect, the state doesn't make for the best entrepreneur, but it can and should build bridges.
During her trip across Germany, Merkel repeatedly left the train to greet the crowds. She's very popular, more popular than her party. So the CDU is using her as their trump card. Their slogan, "Wir haben die Kraft," we have the strength, could equally be translated as, we have Angela Merkel. The poll ratings show she's well on course for a second term in office, regardless which coalition partner she chooses. And in typical Merkel fashion, as election day approaches, she's keeping her options open.